Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Thank you. Hello, everyone, and welcome into the Computer America Show. I hope that you're doing well and you are ready for the program today. Joining us, and by the way, I completely forgot that when I play the applause, that would completely cut off the intro. So I apologize for that. Still learning. I've only been doing this for 10 years, so who knows. But everyone, welcome into the program. Today on the show, we have, of course, the one, the only, Mr. Ralph Bond. He'll be joining us here in just a moment, where we will be doing, he is our science and technology trends correspondent. And yeah, we're moving him over to a bit of a different format. You should be getting more Ralph in smaller bites, but it's still very interesting stories. And you know what? It's always a lot of fun. So everyone, before we get started, computeramerica.com, go there, check everything out. We, of course, have the podcast, past shows, future shows, videos, the live video stream if you feel like joining us and asking questions and just interacting with us. And then, of course, we also have articles, reviews, and show notes. And show notes are going to be very important for today's program as well. Though I do want to kind of draw your attention to, you can find it on our social media or just on our website. Recently published an article, and recently as in like yesterday, about Wi-Fi 7, but not 802.11be, but 802.11bf. And yeah, if you don't know anything about 802.11bf, it's going to be a kind of a fun read, and I'll talk a little bit about it with Ralph, but then we're going to get right into the story. So everyone, once again, he's been a longtime Computer American contributor. He was with us when he was with Intel, with us when he was with Autodesk, and of course, now he's he does freelance podcasting support, and of course he's also over WKEX radio doing their segment as well. So everyone, welcome onto the program, Ralph Mon. Ralph, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing well. I definitely want to throw in more sounds. That sounds like fun, make it more radio-esque. But with that being said, Ralph, I'm glad that you could join us. And I just want to bring it up with you because I'm proud because I wrote that article, summarized a research paper. But yeah, did you hear anything about 802.11bf or Wi-Fi 7?
No, I'm ready to be educated by you on that one. That sounds great.
Yeah, so Wi-Fi 7, it's already out, but of course there are further standards. It's like, Ralph, Wi-Fi 6. That's, they try to simplify things by naming things Wi-Fi 5, Wi-Fi 6, Wi-Fi 7. Much like the transition from 802.11ac to AX, it didn't get a full number release, but it was a new standard for Wi-Fi. Yeah. This new one, though, Ralph, has actually, it's our friends over at Intel have been developing this thing for 10 years. It's called Sense, S-E-N-S. Have you ever heard of Wi-Fi Sense?
No, I have not. I've been out of the loop with Intel for a number of years, so fill me in. I'm ready to learn.
Yeah, obviously there's more in the article, but just a quick overview for everyone. They use the Doppler effect, which, if you ever seen an ambulance go by you, that whole thing.
Yeah.
They use that to interpret the Wi-Fi signal coming out of routers and multiple points and triangulation, blah, blah, blah. The point is they can use just Wi-Fi signal, Ralph, that everyone has in their home and interpret someone's position, where they're walking, how fast they're walking, the duration that they're in a location, how many occupants are in a room, all using machine learning and just looking at the way the signal bounces back to the router, and they're able to essentially completely identify anything and everyone and every obstacle, including dog, couch, sofa, person, inside a home at all times.
Wow. Based on the sonic patterning? Is that what you mean? In other words, it bounces off of a dog and it's got AI enough to go, oh, that's a dog or a person, or is that what you're, wow.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
And of course, it's so sensitive that they're also saying this is going to be a huge benefit for healthcare because it can detect breathing, it can detect heart rate, it can detect how fast someone can type, or I'm sorry, not how fast someone can type, what a person is typing. They can even get keystrokes based off of this data.
It's that articulate?
Yeah,
wow.
it really is. And of course, that depends on the number of access points, and it can measure, the different wavelengths on the different routers. But Ralph, I thought, as a science and tech trend person, that standard is supposed to be ratified in late 2024. So we're still a couple years off, but keep an eye out for Wi-Fi 7. It's going to be a huge advancement.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to research that and maybe work up a story for my friends over at KEX Radio here in Portland. They'd love that kind of thing, especially since Intel, of course, Intel's such a massive part of Oregon's tech community, right? Intel has more than 20,000 employees here in Oregon. So I bet a lot of R&D, because the Intel Architecture Lab's a big part of it's here in Oregon. So I bet a lot of that research is going about 4 miles from my house right now.
Yeah. And, I'll even, kind of pull up the website right now. It's right here, Wi-Fi 7. And of course, I use the Batman, the one where you could map out the entirety of New York City or Gotham City and, kind of do that thing. But yeah, it's this one right here. And then of course there's, let me pull this up real quick.
Great.
My website is doing its thing. But if you go there, Ralph, there's the actual research article I linked to. Any second.
Great.
Come on. Okay, anyways, I'll show you that in a second, but yeah, check it out. And I think that'd be a good segment for everyone to kind of hear about, because it's going to affect everyone soon.
It's fascinating. So, and think of the security applications for that technology, right?
It will essentially make most security. And Ralph, if you just click on this picture right here, it'll take you to the research article that I was, kind of pulling from. So it's this whole toward ubiquitous Wi-Fi.
Oh my
sensing.
Gosh.
So
how cool. Thank you for bringing that up. I love it. I'm going to check that out.
Just like most security systems have motion detection systems inside people's homes. Yep. It's essentially that, but everyone gets it. So.
And you know what, Ben, I've been noticing, and by the way, friends, when I'm looking over a different direction from looking at the camera, I'm looking at my other monitor where I see what Ben's showing. Northeastern University, these people do some amazing research work. Good for them. That's so cool.
Definitely. And I'll even throw that there in the chat if you just want to check it out. But hey, that's for future articles, and let's just call that article number 1. But the real article number 1, story number 1, is in your show notes. So
yeah, and friends, what you're going to see is all the coloration and all the highlighting and bolding and so forth. That's my cheat notes. I'll make available to Ben, in turn available to all of you, a cleaned up version of this that'll look nicer. But this is just for help remind me to emphasize certain points. So, hey, first story, Ben, this is really fun. Comes from CNN, written by Ashley Strickland. And it's a really interesting, relatively recent development. Significant amounts of water found in a massive Grand Canyon on Mars. And of course, the show notes, as we always do, will give you the link and pictures and all this sort of stuff. So don't worry, you'll be able to go out and explore this in depth for yourself. And by the way, that brings up a good point. What we're going to do here is just sort of like Reader's Digest, highlight points of an article or a topic. If you want to dig deeper, we'll give you the link so you can do that. So here we go. With that said, Mars has its own version of the Grand Canyon. Who knew? Called the, I hope I pronounced this correctly, Valles Marineris. And scientists with the European Space Agency recently learned it contains significant amounts of water. And always that's important, right? Now, the discovery was made by the ExoMars Trace Gas Orbiter, launched in 2016 as a joint mission between the European Space Agency and Russia's Roscosmos. And this Martian, you're going to love these factoids. Get ready for this. This Martian canyon is 10 times longer, 5 times deeper, and 20 times wider than Earth's Grand Canyon. If you've ever been to the Grand Canyon, if you've been to have you been to the Grand Canyon, Ben, by chance?
I have not.
Oh, it's a must do. You're to think that this thing's 10 times longer, 5 times deeper, 20 times wider. It's inconceivable. But anyway, with that said,
if that's a must do, then the Mars Grand Canyon is a must do. Ralph, we got to go.
Someday. The water is located a little more than a yard beneath the surface of the canyon's floor and was detected by the orbiter's fine resolution epithermal neutron detector. Fascinating stuff here. Now, why is this important? Well, I think, as you know, and most of our listeners, I'm sure, know, that most of the water on Mars is located in the planet's polar regions and remains frozen as water ice. Keep that in mind. But the huge Martian canyon is just south of the planet's equator. So the discovery of water makes the canyon a key target for future human exploration, as its water would be potentially accessible and might help sustain long-term human outposts on Mars. And then when I did this story with my friend Mark Mason over at KEX Radio, he said, can you imagine what they'll charge for a bottle of Martian water?
Yeah.
Once they bring some back to Earth.
Yeah, well, honestly, probably Walmart will be the first one, and it'll be like Deer Park Mars, and it'll be relatively affordable. But no, and Ralph, I'm still thinking alien life on Mars, look for water, find the microbes. Suddenly, we confirm aliens. This article took the next leap and was even like, when we go there, we need water, and this is the water that we're going to drink. Like, we've completely skipped over, oh yeah, there's probably life on Mars, but hey, water, like, we need that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
fun.
And talking about water on Mars, as you probably know, Ben, but I've been learning more about some of the science history, if you will, about this. Scientists believe there's evidence clearly that Mars once was a very water covered surface water. I mean, like our Earth oceans and so forth once upon a time. And then there were a series of catastrophic events that caused all of that water to vaporize, as it were, and just get lost into space, leaving us with this arid, well, seemingly arid, because there is water on Mars. But you get the picture. So it's just kind of fun to think in your mind, once upon a time, this planet was loaded with water. And I was listening to a documentary just yesterday, I think, when I was on the treadmill, where they were saying, there were billions of years for some, at least microbial life, to potentially have developed on Mars once upon a time. So yeah, it's so intriguing. We're learning more every day with all the rovers and the devices we have on Mars checking things out. So stay tuned. We're going to find evidence of life. I guarantee it. I can't believe we won't.
Yeah, and of course, you always just look at the numbers and the amount of planets and all that good stuff.
Oh my gosh, yes.
1 billion years. I feel like a lot of people don't realize how long that is, but a lot of stuff can kind of come and go. And hey, it sounds like a whole planet. Maybe Mars is a cautionary tale. I don't know what we should be cautioned against, but
good point.
Mars is a cautionary tale. Now, with that being said, story number 1, story number 2, and yeah, I've heard about this in other capacities, but I always love the research that goes into medicine. So this one looks intriguing.
And this is a good example, Ben, of what we try to do with these segments and what I do. I'm looking at the wide spectrum of science and technology trends and so forth, right? So sometimes it's medical related, sometimes it's outer space related, sometimes it's vehicles and different energy technologies here on Earth. So it's wide open book, which is a lot of fun. So anyway, with that said, this story comes from Wired magazine by Matt Reynolds. And it's a UK startup is making and reprogramming human cells. Let that sink in. Making and reprogramming human cells. Wow. Okay. So I learned a lot from this article. It's really fun. And there's so much more in the article. Please get the show notes. Please go out and really read the whole article. But with that said, here we go. Almost every human cell contains the genetic information it needs to become any other kind of cell.
That's inspirational. That really is. See, you can be anything you want. Yeah.
You can be you can talk to your skin cells and say, you can be what anyway, a skin cell, for example, has the same set of genes as a muscle cell or a brain neuron. But here's the key. But in each type of cell, only some of those genes are switched on while others remain inactive. If we can figure out the switching on and off recipe behind each type of cell, then theoretically, you could use this information to engineer every single cell type in the human body. Wow. That's the goal of an outfit called BitBio. That's BIT.bio, BitBio. And they're a Cambridge, UK-based company that wants to make precisely engineered batches of human cells. And the team at BitBio says that by inserting the right bit of code into a cell's complete set of genes, you can control how that cell behaves. In other words, The company says that they can reprogram human cells. All right. Now, I love this example that was in the article, and it shows you how profoundly important this could be. For example, what if you could test a potential Alzheimer's drug on a human brain cell engineered to have the signs of Alzheimer's disease? This could give a much clearer indication of whether a test drug is likely to be successful. Okay. Now, today, bit.bio, this isn't all theory. Bit.bio sells 2 different reprogrammed human cell lines, muscle cells and a specific kind of brain neuron. But their plan is to create a wide range of specific human cell lines for use in pharmaceutical and academic research. So this could be a huge breakthrough for the research community. And this is one of those ones where my mouth just goes, yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, I was just checking out their website. It's something something very different that they can, I guess, deliver you petri dishes full of brain cells, and you get to kind of study how drugs react to them and things like that. So they're not printing human brains just yet. There's a lot of people I know that are very sad about that. But
when they can do that, my wife will be interested. She'd like a brain replacement for me.
There you go. But just having cells. And Ralph, I was like, I guess back in the 90s, and I'm sure a lot of people remember this, there was, of course, this whole controversy around stem cells and how they, were harvesting them and that whole thing. I'm glad that science has very aggressively taken on that topic because, it was such a controversial topic. And now, hey, they reprogrammed them from skin cells or something.
Yeah.
It doesn't take much.
Related to what you're talking about, of course, a huge controversy about experimentation and research done on human embryos, right? And I think I read something where, I wish I could remember where I saw this. I read an article about how they're able now to create synthetic replacement, not synthetic, artificial, but to create human cell tissue that would be replicate embryo, so you could do experiments on something that's not an actual human harvested embryo. And this could help research and also resolve for some people, the kind of, perhaps you could say, moral or religious objections they might have to that. So there's another example where this kind of research is going to take us to a place where, wow, research is going to have so many more options and so many more possibilities.
Definitely. And this is definitely the kind of story that I too kind of tuck away in my head and think, whenever people ask me, well, what's going on in the world? And I pull out one of Ralph's stories and I'm like, well, this happened. And, I kind of quote this back to him. But there's that one. Story number 2, everyone's story number 3, though. Ralph, I'll be honest. I thought Hydras were just like in the Odyssey. I thought they were just fiction. What are they talking about?
Yeah, this is a good example. Sometimes I like to go out there in the world of wacky science. Okay, but actually, there's a serious end to this story that at first blush looks goofy. But the headline here is Hydras can regrow their heads, and scientists want to know how they do it. This comes from Popular Science, story by Kate Bagley. And again, we have the links and the pictures for you and so forth. Okay, so as I said in my notes here, it's time for weird science. For a group of small aquatic animals known as Hydra, decapitation is more an inconvenience than anything else. I love that line. Isn't that funny? To date, how Hydra managed to regrow their heads has remained mysterious. To understand the genetic mechanics of this feat, scientists at the University of California, Irvine, that's where my wife went to school, took a close look at which genes are switched on and off during regeneration and how they're controlled. Remember the previous story, that bunch at bit.bio were looking at that pattern of switched on and switched off genes, right? Here this comes again. So again, they're looking at how which genes are switched on and off during regeneration of the head and how they're controlled. So this research team at UCI, University of California, Irvine, they found that near their mouth parts, Hydra have a cluster of up to 300 cells collectively called, no surprise, the head organizer, which directs the development of the head. If the Hydra is beheaded, a new head organizer can form and prompt the animal to regrow its head. Okay, so you're probably saying that's nice, but kind of bizarre. But wait a minute. Okay, so what? According to the researchers investigating how regeneration works in simple organisms like the Hydra, and how similar it is to the process in other animals like lizards regrowing their tails if they're detached, could potentially lead to insights about how growth development sometimes goes awry in humans. There's the payoff. That's the end goal. I love this stuff.
Yeah, and I've been sitting here kind of looking at different pictures of Hydras. Like they look like little sea creatures. They're very plankton, or I guess kind of plankton. Like, Ralph, do you think 2,000 years ago people knew about these things and they were like, oh, let's just blow that up to a giant lizard? Or like, I'm wondering how the idea of a Hydra came about. But then there's a real life Hydra.
Well, there you go. And here's my question. If the Hydra is decapitated, one assumes that the head is where the mouth is, where food and nutrition comes in. How does it survive as it's regrowing its new head? That would be a question I'd like to ask an expert on Hydras or the researchers. How do they make it? Or does the head regrow really, really fast? I mean,
or maybe it just has just enough energy to survive. But man, that's actually that'd be a very nice job title. Would be a Hydra expert. So there you go. Story number 3 and last one, and actually, this is one that we've been reporting on here on the show.
I'm sure you have.
Too often. Yeah. Like, Ralph, I don't know if you noticed kind of like the online fervor around this the James Webb Telescope. Like, we're going to talk about some fun facts, all that stuff like that. But I got to say, Ralph, it's like someone's like, James Webb Telescope technician successfully pours cup of coffee, and like everyone like repost it. There's articles about it. It's great. It's like, everyone's been following this thing step by step, and they've been loving the, how smoothly this whole thing's been going.
Yeah, that's very true. It's quite one of this new century's most astonishing accomplishments. But anyway, so what we've got going on here, I've got this from the NASA fact sheet for the telescope project, which I highly recommend everybody go out and check out. And I've got the link in the show notes, and we'll get those show notes to you, cleaned up version out to you. So we have some fun facts about the James Webb Space Telescope that launched into space on December 25. Again, the source is the NASA fact sheet, so I went right to the motherlode source. So, of course, as you just alluded to, last month, we saw tons of coverage about the James Webb Space Telescope. And most of that coverage centered on how it is a successor to the Hubble telescope, its $10 billion price tag, how scientists are keeping their fingers crossed that its complex system will deploy properly. We'll talk about that more in a moment. And just this week, there's good news that the Webb Space Telescope completed its complex mirror deployment, and the observatory is getting close to completing its journey to L2, where it will orbit the sun 1 million miles away from Earth. The L2 is a shorthand for the second Lagrange, I hope I'm saying that right, Lagrange point. So the L2 is short for the second Lagrange point, a wonderful accident of gravity and orbital mechanics, and the perfect place to park the Webb telescope in space. There are 5 so-called Lagrange points, areas where gravity from the sun and the Earth balance the orbital motion of the satellite. Now, I don't pretend to fully understand it all, but that's what this L2 business is all about. But I thought it would be fun to highlight 2 fun facts that did not get a lot of attention, at least in what I saw in coverage. And first, who was James Webb? James Webb was NASA's second administrator. And here's the really cool thing. Webb is best known for leading the Apollo program, which landed the first humans on the moon. I'll never forget that July. I was a young teenager, I think. How old was I? Anyway, I don't remember. Watching that landing on the little black and white TVs, folks. And you're talking to an old guy here. It was amazing. Anyway, here's another fun fact. The James Webb Telescope is designed to discover and study the first stars and galaxies that formed in the early universe. And we all know that. But to see these faint objects, it must be able to detect things that are 10 billion times as faint as the faintest stars visible to our eyes without a telescope. Let that sink in. I'm going to say that again. It must be able to detect things that are 10 billion times as faint as the faintest stars visible to our eyes without a telescope. And that's up to 100 times fainter than the Hubble Space Telescope can see. I think that's just kind of a fun thing to get another perspective as to why the scientists are so excited about having this telescope, one, in space now, properly deployed its mirrors and shield and everything, and getting ready to go. It's wow.
Yeah. Of course, we're over in the chat saying that he was 11 or 12 years old when the moon landing had happened. I got to say, I was very young when I saw it, but of course, when I saw it, it was the Apollo 13 movie. So, that's,
there you go.
Just a little bit different.
Yeah.
And of course, for for a lot of people, this is another factoid I think people should be aware of, which is this whole mirror size. It's sensitive. People know that. Better technology, blah, blah, blah. But if anything, if you know anything about cameras, the bigger the mirror, the more light you can gather and the better photos you can take. And you can see here in this image that I have that's
a great image.
Yeah, it's about 100 times more powerful than.
Oh my gosh!
That. So,
there you go.
Good fun facts. I love that you highlighted those, and of course, you may have heard I had a little kind of system blip in while you were talking. That was me going to the Apollo 13 movie cast and Control Fing to find if James Webb was even present in the movie, like if anyone played him in the background or anything like that.
Oh, interesting.
No, actually, he was nowhere to be seen. So I guess he was important enough for NASA to really give him one of the highest honors they can. But not important enough to be in the movie. So, well,
that's why I wanted to bring that up, because I thought
unsung hero.
People just, they just said the word James Webb Telescope, and maybe I'm not saying all coverage didn't get into that, but I just felt it was really good to highlight who this man was and his important role in the history of NASA.
It definitely was, and I gotta say, Ralph, the fun colors in the show notes, I like those. You should keep those in. Those are it really makes it pop,
Well, okay, you could, if you want to share that with the audience as is. That's the raw, real deal. Those are Ralph's cheat notes.
There you go. But everyone, of course, that's we're again moving over to a little bit shorter, shorter stories, less stories. But Ralph, you're done. Good day's work. I think you showed off a lot of good stories. And for everyone out there, you can of course find the show notes over at computeramerica.com. We'll have these up. And Ralph will be back very, very soon. I'm glad that you're flexible with your schedule, Ralph. Thank you for coming on and kind of doing all this with us. So
hey, always a blast.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And of course, looking forward to having you back on. Everyone, computeramerica.com once again. We'll also have a link over to Ralph's website if you'd like to see his past stories. Also, I never mentioned this enough. In the YouTube, on our YouTube, we have categories, and one of the categories is strictly Ralph Bond. So if you want to find more and everything about Ralph that we've done over the past 4 years, hey, make it very easy for you. Until next time, everyone, have a good one. Bye-bye.